r/EntitledParents. What is up, guys? Mr. Reddit here, back with another episode of Entitled Parents Stories. r/EntitledParents is one of my favorite subreddits, and I really enjoyed making this. Now kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Entitled kid chokes me while his mom is watching, then tries to make me give him my PS4 because I punched him. This is my first story here. Please be gentle. Also, this story is more about the kid than the parent, but the parent was supporting the behavior. Our cast: Entitled Kid, Entitled Mom, me, Neighbors 1 and 2, two neighborhood kids. Note that the neighbors are actually pretty cool. The entitled kid was just older than them, and so he had some authority. One summer day last year, I had just turned 14. I was playing some basketball with these two kids from my neighborhood in their driveway. Their family is pretty rich, so they have a fully paved driveway, big enough to be a sizable court. It's just me and them for about half an hour, until Satan's son himself came over from down the street. This kid is the really stereotypical little shit who made the select soccer team 3 years ago and still thinks that he runs the place. So we let him join the game and everything is fine for a bit. I'm a little bit on the bigger side, but I'm really strong, so I play really well as a center, posting up and that. And the entitled kid is guarding me, and he's getting worked. He's shorter and not as strong, so he's getting dominated. Here's the major incident. I've just grabbed a loose ball, and I'm running back towards the basket. The other kid gets back before me and stops my drive, so I start to back him down again. He must have just been really frustrated by him not getting a chance on defense, so he thinks up a plan. At this point, I was wearing a hoodie, and he grabs my hood from behind and pulls as hard as he can. I, not expecting my airflow to be cut off, especially while I'm breathing hard, start to panic. I can't shake him off my back. I don't know how long he's hanging on, but it felt like a whole 45 seconds. That may not seem like that long, but I'm freaking out, so it feels like forever. An eternity later, his grip loosens and I finally get him off. I'm fired up, so I punch him right in the nose. Definitely not as hard as I could, but it certainly would have hurt a lot. This little shit, however, he drops like he's out cold. Meanwhile, I'm on my knees trying to get my breath back. He's bawling his eyes out. He's rolling and screaming and all that, being the melodramatic turd that he is. But his mom is running over, and it was that moment where I knew it was over for me. Now, sometime between when he started and when I socked him, his mother came out, but she's the typical, I want to speak to the manager, white upper middle class mom who volunteers to be the head of the PTA every year and goes to Starbucks 20 times a day, and the entitled kid is very much her son.
Oh my God, are you okay? What did you do to him?
He just nearly choked me, so I punched him.
Why would you do that? You're so much bigger than him.
But he was choking me out.
Come on, dude. You've got to be more mature about this.
What do you expect me to do? Apologize to him for making him choke me? The whole thing goes on for a while until the neighbors step in to try to protect me. Hey, he didn't even do anything wrong. Yeah, he didn't even hit him that hard.
But he shouldn't be hitting people in the first place, especially not my son.
Yes, she actually said, especially not my son. But it was basically a trade-off.
Why are you guys trying to protect him? You should probably go inside. You don't know what you're talking about.
They keep trying to help me out, but to no avail. This just goes around for another 5 minutes before the entitled kid finally gets up and limps. Yes, limps back to his house. I go home because I'm sick of this shit and tired. The next day I try to go back over, but the entitled kid is there already. Neither of his parents' cars are there, so I assume that he's staying at the neighbor's kid's house until they get back. I decide to go back inside because I don't want to interact with him. A couple hours later, entitled kid shows up at our door with his mom standing at gate of our fence.
Hi. I was just coming over to say sorry for choking you yesterday. I won't ever do it again.
Okay. Thanks. I'm sorry that I punched you. At this point, my mom comes to see who I'm talking to, and she asks what's going on. Entitled mom pipes up and says,
We are here for your forgiveness gift.
My what?
Your forgiveness gift. It's a tradition in our family that the person who apologizes last has to give the other person something to make up for it.
My mom was like, Excuse me? What's going on? I explain what happened, and as I explain what happened, she seems to get more and more disgusted by the situation. I finish explaining and turn back to the entitled kid who had tried to correct my story while I was explaining it to my mom, saying things like,
He punched me twice in the face and then kicked me in the nuts while I was crying on the ground.
My mom is basically a bomb-sniffing dog for lies, so I can see from her face that she knows it's bullshit. I turn back to the entitled kid. My mom says, "I'm sorry, but we don't do forgiveness gifts in this family."
We do in this one. Son, pick out something that belongs to him.
Entitled kid looked around and saw my PS4, and he points at it.
Mummy, I want that.
Keep in mind that this kid is just about a year younger than I am. Too old for mommy. Too old for this whole situation, in my opinion. Entitled mom walks up to our door and sees it's my PS4.
Great, we'll take that as our gift.
My mom, with steam billowing out of her ears, slams the door in their faces and quickly locks it. They start pounding on the door so hard that it sounds like they are trying to break it down. We leave the door, but they stay there pounding on the door for at least another 5 minutes before finally leaving. I still leave my neighbor's house anytime I see him walking down the block. Next up, we've got,
You can't just throw out a stranded pregnant mother and her toddler at 3 a.m. in the cold.
Oh yes, I f***ing can. Buckle up, everyone, for this bumpy ride. Okay, so I was chilling in my living room around 3 a.m. playing some video games. My parents are out of town visiting some friends, and I decided to stay home. House to myself and all. So I am in nothing but bra and panties. Then there's a knock on the door. WTF, I think to myself. So I scramble to get my clothes on and answer the door. It was a family acquaintance with her already whiny little brat. She's also visibly pregnant, and we'll get to why that part is important later. Hey, what's going on?
My car broke down and tow company can't come get my car until tomorrow. Think me and my child can crash here tonight?
Sure, you guys can sleep in the living room. I let them in. Want anything to eat or drink?
Coffee, if it's not a problem.
Sure, no problem. So I go to make some coffee when I see the little shit picking up my controller. Hey little guy, please put that down.
Oh, he can't play a game?
No, I'm in the middle of something. Plus, he wouldn't know how to play that type of game.
But he really wants to, don't you? I want to play.
No, you can't play.
I want to play. I want to play. I want to...
Throws the f***ing controller at the TV, shattering the screen. What the f***? I rush over to the TV.
Hey, don't you swear at my child.
You just f***ing let him destroy my TV like this?
You're the one who didn't let him play the video game.
I said no, and you have to teach your little brat that he doesn't own jack shit.
How dare you? Just wait until I tell your mother about how you treated him. You'll make a terrible mom.
I'm not having kids, but if I did, I wouldn't let them be spoiled little shits like him.
You are being the brat right now. Just get a new TV and quit whining.
Yeah, I'll get a new TV with the money you pay me for the broken TV.
What? But you are the one who instigated him.
You know what? Just get the f*** out of my house. You and your brat are no longer welcome in my house.
What the f*** is wrong with you? I'm pregnant, and I have a toddler, and nowhere to go. You can't just kick out a stranded pregnant mother and her toddler at 3 a.m. in the cold.
Oh, yes I can. You insufferable cunt. Get the f*** out of my house before I call the cops. Her, picking her brat up and heading towards the door.
Just wait until I tell your mom about this.
Yeah, I'll gladly tell her about what your little shit did to my TV and how you refused to pay for it.
You'll regret this.
She leaves. The next morning I called my parents and explained what happened. They were very understanding because I was never raised to be a spoiled little cum stain, and Momby cunt got an earful from my mom that if she didn't pay back, we would take her to small claims. She tried to play the,
"Oh, woe is me, single pregnant mother, blah blah blah."
But it didn't work, and she forked over the $500 for the new TV, and we cut contact with her. Edit. In case anyone else was wondering, the reason Breeder and her shit stain were out at 3 a.m. was because the little shit had demanded McDonald's and refused to go to bed unless he got it. Next up, we've got, Your yard is now our park. My partner and I purchased this house next door to my best friend. I had lived with him for close to a decade when his kids were babies, so they viewed my house as an extension of theirs, and were in and out all day, every day. I have a more flexible schedule than he and his wife, so I have them in the mornings, after school, and on days off of school. I had a pool in my yard, and because my friend's kids were still little, I installed a retractable cover and made sure it was locked so they couldn't open it. My friend's yard has one of those wood fort climbing wall swing set deals and a large sandbox. Throughout the year, we spent most evenings outside, grilling, drinking, and watching the kids play, swim, and whatever. One summer day, I came home from work a little earlier than normal and started to prep for dinner. I heard a knock at my door, which was odd since my buddy's kids never knocked. I went to see who it was and discovered a mom and two kids who looked to be maybe 5 to 7 years old. As I opened the door, she informed me that her kids needed to use the bathroom and that I needed to come out and get the cover off of my pool. I was confused and asked her to repeat herself, and she said that her kids needed to pee and that they were hot and bored with playing in the sandbox, so I needed to open up my pool. I asked her why she was in my friend's yard and what made her think her kids were welcome to swim in my pool, or use my bathroom for that matter. She got really bitchy and told me that she had moved into the house behind us and that she had watched my buddy's kids come over all the time and I opened the pool for them. She insisted that since I was willing to open my pool for the kids next door, I should also open it for the children who lived behind me. I tried explaining the relationship between my best friend's family and mine. She claimed that it didn't matter, that I had known them since birth and pretty much had helped raise them. I just needed to get to know her kids too and it would be okay. I told her no and closed the door on her. She spent a while knocking and fussing at me through the window and then had her kids pee in a planter on the side of my patio. When I still didn't react, she took her kids back into my friend's yard to play on the swings. I texted him to let him know what was going on. Right at that moment, he was letting his huge dogs out into the yard without noticing the unwelcomed visitors. The mom starts shrieking and climbs up onto the fort, leaving both her kids on the swings. She starts demanding that we put the dogs inside, and how dare my friend let his dogs out into his own yard when her kids are clearly playing there. He tells her to GTFO and calls the police. When the cops arrived, she put on the whole waterworks about how her kids are just looking for friends, and my buddy's kids are somehow bullying her kids, even though they'd never met. That he invited her over just to let his dogs attack her children, blah blah blah. They eventually move her back onto her own property, then come back later to tell us they warned her about coming back. She lived in that house for almost a year before she and her husband divorced. During that year, I had to replace the lock over my pool cover controls 3 times, have a fencing company remove a gate at the back of my property that was meant to let the lawnmower through, and eventually pay a security company to come check on the yard anytime we were going to be away for more than a few hours. We found her and her kids in our yards repeatedly, but she'd leave when we got home. What finally resolved the issue was my partner catching her in the pool. She told him she knew the man that owned the house and that he had told her it was okay to swim. He told her he was married to the man that owned the pool and that it's not okay to swim. She apparently had a bad reaction to realizing she was immersing her sons in gay water. We didn't see her again after that. Our final story we're looking at today: my son broke his computer. He's allowed to use yours. I was 12. My parents moved us to a new place. Our neighbors were unpleasant. There was the entitled mother and father. Never met him, can't call him entitled. With 2 sons, one was 13 and the other was about 8 or 9. The older brother was a decent guy. We were school bus pals, but the younger one was an issue. But looking back on it, he probably had a social disorder like Asperger's or maybe ADHD. My mom did not like this kid. A few incidents happened before with him, and my mom nicknamed him the orange-haired goblin. We'll call him OG. This story is told from my mom's perspective as she dealt with the entitled mother. Despite this happening over 10 years ago, I do remember that it happened, but the written dialogue here is pulled from my mother's retelling of the story, so there's a tad of embellishment. This was in the day of dial-up in my country. It was fantastic. My mom and I had a system where I'd quickly load a flash game with a heads up, then disconnect from the internet and plug the phone back in. It was the school holidays, so it was just my mom and I at home when my dad was at work, so it was an otherwise empty house when this happened. My mom told me, "You're supposed to give a heads up when you're unplugging the phone. I need to make a call." "I'm not on the computer though. I'm outside." Mom pokes her head out of the kitchen window, sees me, looks confused, then turns around. She and I have the same idea, so we both head to the room with the computer where we find orange-haired goblin. "Excuse me, what are you doing?"
My mum told me I could use your computer.
"Why don't you use yours?" Despite hating this kid, my mother is not unreasonable. She's not going to get annoyed with an 8 to 9-year-old.
I broke it.
Well, I'm sorry, but she can't decide that. You have to ask for permission. Besides, you can't let yourself in our house anyway. You can finish the game, but I need to plug my phone back in, so you can't load anything else. Mom then gives a look that meant keep an eye on him. She later told me she didn't want him to break our computer if he indeed broke his own, so she needed me to keep an eye on him. Orange-haired Goblin then leaves, but 10 minutes later we hear a knock at the door. I go to answer, but my mom gets there first.
Orange-haired Goblin told me you won't let him use your computer.
Sorry, who?
My son.
Oh, right, the kid who let himself in. He told me that you told him he could use my computer. Why is that?
His was broken, and I needed to entertain him.
So that makes it okay? I wouldn't have minded letting him in if you had just discussed it with me first.
He's an angel. There's no harm in him using it.
Clearly there is if he broke his. At this point, Entitled Mom must have been getting annoyed. I heard this part for myself as she started shouting very loudly.
He only broke his keyboard. He spilled his drink on it. It's safe for him to use yours because he learned his lesson.
Still doesn't give him or you the right to come and go as you please and use our property without permission.
But you said you would have let him, so what's the problem?
My problem is a strange kid I barely know just walked into my house and used my computer because his mother said he could. If that's how you treat your neighbors, then you or your children aren't welcome here anymore. My mom then slammed the door, and that was the last we heard from Entitled Mother, though she'd stare at us if she saw us leave the house. My mom would make jokes about the kid if she saw him in the street, like, "Crap, it's that orange-haired goblin. Remember to lock the door." When school resumed, I was talking to the older brother on the school bus. He told me that his mother asked him to steal our keyboard if he ever comes around again. He understands his mother was a wackadoodle, so we just had a laugh about it. And lastly, huge shout out to my first 3 subscribers on this channel: Dino Wolf, Blink Cartridge Gamer, and Team Mewtwo Leader. Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. For more of the best stories from Reddit, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, and I'll see you very soon with some more of the best stories that Reddit has to offer.